Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to another running of the Canadian E-Motorsports Network. My name is Regan McCauley. Yes, I am alone today, or tonight, I should say, in the commentator booth as the regular play-by-play man himself, Jordy Caraher, is unfortunately unable to attend tonight due to some stuff going on with his job position in Alberta. So I am currently back in the original office where we used to broadcast together before we had to do all the moving procedures and such. So, yeah, this is my first time doing play-by-play like this. So it's going to be quite an experience. Definitely a little bit of an anxiety there in the body, but so yeah, welcome to round 3 of 11 of the 2022 Canadian Motorsports Network Formula One Series. We are here at the Miami International Autodrome track, which Formula One hosted their first ever race at the track in real life this year with the Miami Grand Prix. We are hosting it for the first time in our series as well. We have not hosted in any of our past couple of seasons that we've had with the F1 series. In the previous race was the Portuguese Grand Prix in Portugal, of course. Mason Pope of Rum Runners Racing and the BMW power unit from Germany in the number 8 car was able to score an absolutely dominant victory in Portugal. And yeah, he absolutely dominated the whole thing. There was a bit of a scare towards the end involving tire strategies, and I believe also there were a couple of safety cars as well. And there looked like kind of a bit of a tire fiasco going on, as there was a bit of a close call with Dan Cudmore, who looked to have the possibility of scoring 2 wins in a row, but unfortunately that did not happen as he ended up on the intermediate tires, which, yeah, you have to remember, the Portuguese Grand Prix was a very wet race. It did get dry as the race did go on, but it was pretty much a wet race, so there was just chaos all around, but it wasn't any trouble for Mason Pope, who was able to overcome that bit of a weird situation with Dan Cudmore and was able to still hang on for his first victory of the season from the pole, as a matter of fact. And in second place on the podium was none other than Colby Luca from Ayers Racing with the Ferrari power unit from Vermont of the United States. He qualified 5th and was able to make his way up 3 positions to score second place on the podium. And that would be Luca's first podium of the season. The first race didn't fare out too well. He wasn't able to get any points, or he wasn't able to get on the podium or anything like that, but he was able to get the job done there. In third place, a bit of a familiar name, of course. It's the person that's usually on the other side of the wall with the current setup that Jordy and I tend to have. It's none other than the older McCauley himself, Corbin McCauley, in the number 71 Red Dirt Racing car. He qualified second, and he was able to come home in a decent third place position, and that was and he actually scored, and as a matter of fact, scored a pole in Bahrain in the first race. So it's been a good season so far for him as the number 1 Red Dirt Racing car, of course, and a couple other decent finishers as well, including Robert Narakaj and Dan Cudmore rounding at the top 5, with Dan Cudmore's teammate Michael Dimitrov in 6th place. Some good finishes from the Alpha Flow cars there in 5th and 6th. Qualified a little bit lower. Dimitrov, however, basically stayed in 6th pretty much the whole time. And then, of course, Darcy Ford, Ivan Reynolds, and a couple other results, as you can see right there. And going back to Corbin McCauley here, yes, he was, a matter of fact, called Driver of the Day by the, I guess you could suppose it's the game, as it's a bit of a, it was kind of a weird one because McCauley did qualify second, but finished third, so maybe it's something with the game where maybe he kind of fell very far to the back. I mean, to be fair, there was that one corner in Portugal where it was just an absolute hell of a corner in a bad way. His braking there was absolutely not great. His tires would just not warm up at all in that corner, just kept going wide in there, but he was eventually able to conquer that corner, and he was able to score third place, of course. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter the circumstances regardless. He was still driver of the day. So, once again, it's been a very good start for the other McCauley, the racer McCauley. In the driver's standings, Dan Cudmore continues to lead with 106 points over Colby Luca, and Luca and Corbin McCauley both moved up there. They're actually tied for second place with 102 points each. Michael Dimitrov in fourth place with 93 points. He's been having a solid season thus far. One podium in 2 races. I believe he had a somewhat more worse finish at Bahrain. Still, I believe, was able to get a top 10 there. Narakaj, Darcy Ford, and Jason Butler in some very close proximities there between 5th and 7th. You can see the other Cudmores down there with Greathouse and Pope as well with Silver Hornet Racing and Rum Runners. In the team standings, Alpha Flow Racing has a pretty good lead with 199 points with Ayers. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Ayers Racing in second place with the 160 points. They move up over Red Dirt Racing and also Silver Hornet Racing. Those two teams, unfortunately, both drop a couple spots in there. There's some movement with Guardian Autosport and also Rum Runners Racing moving up a couple spots. Atlantic Motorsports and 519E Racing both move down to the bottom range right there. So that's what the constructor standings look like after 2 rounds out of 11. As I get the schedule right here, yes, we have completed 2 rounds with Bahrain on October 11th and Portugal on October 18th. And now we're at the Miami Grand Prix for round 3. As a matter of fact, this round and the next round, we got 2 rounds in a row in North America, starting off with the Miami Grand Prix tonight, of course. And then we'll head back home to Canada for round 4. But of course, let's focus on that whenever this race comes to an end. Still got to get through this heck of a chaotic race that we should definitely have. Of course, we got the 2022 series grid, just to get familiar with some of the drivers and the teams that you'll continuously see as the 2022 season rolls around. Of course, Cudmore and Dimitrov with Alpha Flow, they've been very stellar through the first 2 races, and they will look to definitely remain a championship contender as Cudmore is the defending series champion, and Michael Dimitrov, I believe, was the runner-up last season. I believe that's correct. There's Luca and Reynolds at Ayers Racing. They'll definitely be a contender as well. We got some familiar names from the NASCAR side of the E-Motorsports network with Darcy Ford and Ty Higginbottom there at Atlantic Motorsports, with both of them having good experience in the F1 series, but also at the same time in the NASCAR series as well as Darcy Ford was. My memory sometimes fades a little bit every now and then. Darcy Ford champion. Then Ty Higginbottom, as a matter of fact, recently won the Season 3 NASCAR Series Championship with a close victory over a teammate at Homestead Miami Speedway, the race that was in honor of Chase Beatty. And then, of course, Red Dirt Racing, McCauley and Sullivan. McCauley kind of being more the leader there, but don't count out Sullivan. He's a pretty decent driver there as well. He actually has only completed 1 race where he did score the podium at Bahrain. He unfortunately was not able to make Portugal, so he'll look to hopefully return. I still have to get familiar with some of the name tags, so I'll have to find out here if he will be in the session. And so far, by the looks of it, he is not. And then, of course, Silver Hornet Racing Team with the Cudmores. That's definitely going to be that's a brother feud right there. Dan Cudmore gets a bit off scot-free there from any potential feuds that may happen. And then, of course, Dan Mattiello, who was a playoff driver in the NASCAR series in Season 3 with an individual entry. Going through my papers here and such. And now transitioning back to the race day graphic. Yes, we are in Miami. Again, the first time that we are at this circuit in this series is also this year the first time in the real-life Formula 1 series. So how about we go for a ride-along to see what this track really is like in the perspective of the drivers. So yeah, hopefully you can still hear me well right here. Yes, going through some tight corners there the first couple turns. Yes, the circuit length at 5.41 kilometers and I believe that was 50 miles right there. This track has 3 potential DRS zones that range from 190 to 200 miles per hour. With a speed trap, as a matter of fact. Trying to make sure I have this track all correct and everything. Yes, the speed trap that will eventually come around as we get to the third sector. Now the car is going down the very, very long, sort of a curvy straightaway here through turn 10, heading into a hard braking zone in turn 11. And then it gets very tight from here. You got the right-hand corner right here. Yes, it says right there, number of corners at 19. And there's, I believe this is called a corkscrew. It's a very awkward situation here where you have a very large possibility of damaging the under part of your car. And now there comes up the DRS zones right there. And here's a long straightaway where it is the second DRS detection zone. It's a long straightaway, perfect opportunity to take advantage of your DRS and also your overtaking abilities. So a lot of battles are definitely going to happen along this straightaway. So it'll be, if we get a side-by-side battle or just 2 cars battling close to the very end of this Miami Grand Prix, then that straightaway and that hard braking zone, the speed trap, is definitely going to be integral to how someone is going to go to victory lane in Miami. Currently sorting through a bunch of papers right now. It's always nice to be prepared. We'll get back to the race day graphic right here. The first qualifying session is about to come to an end very soon here. Technically considered a practice session, but by the looks of it right now, Colby Luca sits in first place with a 1:30.029. In second place right now is Mason Pope with a 1:30.138, and then Darcy Ford in third place. So I guess in the first qualifying session podium so far, we have a Ayers Racing car, we have a Rum Runners car, and then we have Atlantic Motorsports. So as soon as the second qualifying session will begin, we will get to that as soon as possible. And according to the chat here, according to the some chats that are going around here late into the race, there is apparently a threat of a possible rain race, which is most certainly not what the drivers want, especially at this kind of a track where corners are pretty challenging to get through, whether they're extremely wide, where you can have a possibility of getting loose, or they're very tight and narrow, which may have battles be so close, and there's also a ton of braking zones. Although there are some long straightaways as well, as we have mentioned earlier. And already there are 2 DNFs, so everyone will advance to the third qualifying session. So this second qualifying session is going to be more so of seeing who's the fastest and who may right now be the most consistent with their times as we eventually head towards the race. So eventually getting to the second qualifying session here very soon. All right, we will get to it right here, and there we are. We're here in Miami We are now witnessing the second qualifying session getting underway as we are right now on one of the Cudmores here. It is the number 15 of Cody Cudmore for Silver Hornet Racing with the Mercedes power unit, of course, from Prince Edward Island. He's preparing right now with his outlap. About 13, just under 13 and a half minutes that we will have at the second qualifying session, which once again, all drivers will make it through by the sounds of it, so it will be more of a case to see who is more so the fastest and everything, and I probably should see here if I can get the audio of the race through right here. So now you should be hearing the audio from the second qualifying session here in Miami. Let's get through some of the other drivers that we can get through right here if this thing will allow me. Into the pit lane right there. Here is Jason Butler in the number 28 519E Racing Audi Power Unit car. So far this season, Jason Butler through 2 races doesn't have any stats in terms of wins or poles or podiums. Come to think of it, I probably should have the statistics of Bahrain up here as well, the results per se. So let's see here. All right, that is perfect right there. And there was a bit of a caution there in Sector 1, but it goes by very quick. Okay, now we have the Bahrain results, so this will definitely help in terms of getting more information on how the drivers have done so far this season. Jason Butler qualified 8th and finished 5th in the Bahrain Grand Prix, while in Portuguese he qualified 7th, finished 9th. So Butler, I guess you could say in NASCAR statistics, Butler has 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s through 2 races so far. He has an average qualifying position of 7.50 with an average race finish of 7th. The amount of qualifying points he has currently put up is 27 with race points at 56, so not so bad right now with him currently 7th in the standings with 83 points, 3 behind Darcy Ford, and I believe that's 4 in front of Cody Cudmore. And he actually has the fastest lap of the second qualifying session here so far, as he has a 1:30.292, and we have a couple cautions here in the final couple sectors. It looks like it's probably because a couple of cars are heading down the pit lane. Doesn't look to be any issues so far. Some cars coming into the pit lane to go back into their respective garages just to get a bit of a break. In second place right now is Mason Pope. who has a 130.515, so kind of a difference behind Jason Butler. But again, he's shown quite the pace throughout the season so far. Well, to be fair, he's only done one race, so maybe a little bit hard to judge at the moment because this will only be his second race of the season. But again, though, that dominance at Portugal really showed fairly well. Apologies for the advanced silence right there. My body's going through some health stuff at the moment. Can't control that, obviously. And we have a change in positions as Ty Higginbottom of Atlantic Motorsports is now in second place with a 130.7 or 378. Sorry about that. And then there's Mason Pope now in third place. In fourth place, we have Michael Greathouse at Rum Runners Racing with a BMW power unit from South Carolina in the United States. So far, in 2 races, he has a 7th place finish with a 11th qualifying position in Bahrain, while at Portuguese, he is... Or Portuguese, let me get the results here. He finished 10th, qualified 13th. In the standings, he currently sits 9th with 68 points, which that puts him, by the looks of it, about 10-ish points behind Cody Cudmore in 8th, and then 4 over Darcy Cudmore, so he's currently in between the 2 Cudmores from Silver Hornet Racing. As he continues to remain in 4th place with 6 minutes remaining in this second qualifying session. Let's move down the grid here. We got Cody Cudmore with a 131.234. He currently sits in 5th place out of 8 cars that have gotten a lap so far. Or you could say 7 because Colby Luca's lap looks a little bit far back unless there was a bit of a small incident that may have happened. There was a caution. There was a yellow flag, or sorry, I guess caution is more of the NASCAR term. A yellow flag in sectors 1 and 2. Hopefully something didn't happen to him there. And there's the caution, sector 3. We can mostly assume that that's just cars going into pit lane once again. Daniel Cudmore in the pit lane. Most cars are in the pit lane. We do have Mike Nickens, though, in the number 89 Guardian Autosport Honda Power Unit car from Florida. So I guess you could say this is his home race, being from Florida and being at Miami for tonight's race. He put on quite a bit of a turbulent campaign in the third season of the NASCAR series, as he started out the season a little bit iffy. It was about 4 races or so where he wasn't really that noticeable, but then he turned the switches and started scoring multiple wins heading into the playoffs. That includes his playoff run, which was absolutely outstanding. He was able to score 2 victories that were both win and in situations, where in the first one he actually he got his first career victory in the series at Michigan, which advanced his way into the round of 12. And then his next win came, I believe it was, my memory is somehow foggy. I'm surprised I can't recall it too perfectly here, but he did win the first race of the round of 8, which advanced him into the championship for Homestead Miami. So later, it kind of in that run, he started to slowly become, even though he didn't win Rookie of the Year, he did eventually look to be possibly, arguably the best rookie out of all of them. Yes, even over Leo Jameson, if you recall his name from the series being the eventual Rookie of the Year. And Nickens, on the other hand, with Formula One, this is something that has been a little bit unfamiliar with him, as not the greatest confidence, but at the same time he still has an incredibly positive attitude and personality as well, which is beloved by all the other drivers in the E-Motorsport network, whether it's in NASCAR or Formula One. So it's excellent to have in this kind of a series network that we have. Through 2 races so far, Nickens has unfortunately 1 DNF. He did finish the race in Bahrain. I mean, to be fair, it was a pretty crazy race, so he was able to take advantage of some positions. He qualified 12th, finished 12th, and then in Portugal, he qualified 14th and then finished 13th. I believe the second race was a DNF. I believe that was. I think he DNF'd pretty early on. And I may have seen, there may have been a car there. I don't know if that was Nickens that I may have just seen there possibly get some damage there on the front wing. He is missing a front wing right now. I mean, obviously the car that's coming up behind him has one, so it looks like Nickens has made some contact with the wall somewhere. Right now, Mike Nickens sits 14th in the standings with 50 points, 5 behind Red Dirt Racing driver Zach Sullivan in 13th, as Nickens will head to the pit lane. And now looking at the top of the grid here with under 2 minutes to go in the second qualifying session, Mason Pope has the fastest time of a 1:28.784, and about a second behind him is Darcy Ford in his number 64 Atlantic Motorsports Mercedes power unit car from Prince Edward Island, 1:29.711. In third place, Jason Butler was at the top for most of the second qualifying session earlier on, but now he sits in third place, which is still fairly decent. I guess you could call that a podium right there, unless someone else decides to take it to the track. But by the looks of it, all the cars are now in the garage. So by the looks of it, this second qualifying session pretty much has its results now. We got Ty Higginbottom in 4th place, Cody Cudmore 5th, Michael Greathouse in 6th, Daniel Cudmore in 7th. The Silver Hornet Man, Darcy Cudmore in 8th, and then Mike Nickens 9th. Colby Luca with a bit of a strange time of 1:44.794 in 10th place. But I'm sure we can forget about he and all of us can forget about that one, of course. So as soon as this third qualifying session comes around, we will get to that.
That's the whole thing we're supposed to get. They wanted to get another call. I was wondering how they made that down payment. That's how they did it. $3,500. That truck was worth it. Oh, man.
And there you have it with your second qualifying session results. All of them on the same tire compounds. Smalls, no surprise. So a plus 0.927, almost a second gap between Mason Pope and Darcy Ford right there. And then there's a bit of a 1.5s, 2.0, 2.3, and it just goes on and on and on there. So we will transition back to the race day graphic here just for a little bit, as we will eventually get to the third and final qualifying session where all laps truly matter, because we are pretty much going to have, I believe, most or all of the drivers that are participating tonight that will fight for a pole position in the Miami Grand Prix. So far, only two different drivers have poles so far, with Corbin McCauley scoring the pole at the Bahrain Grand Prix with a very fast lap. He also, I believe, had the first qualifying session in hand. As we will get back to the race footage here, or qualifying footage, I should say. We have 10 drivers that will go for it, for the pole. Under 12 minutes that the drivers will get here. We have a couple drivers coming out right here. That is Cody Cudmore that we are on his outlap. There's also Darcy Cudmore and Ty Higginbottom there on their outlaps. Now Jason Butler will be as well. A bunch of cars are starting to come out here. We will likely see a couple cars come out to get some early laps to see where they are to start off this qualifying session, but as the final, let's say, 3-4 minutes come around, we'll probably see some cars try to come out very late, as most Formula One fans see in the real-life F1 racing series, of course. Most drivers try to get that final lap where they make it back to the line before the time expires. Under 8.5 minutes to go in this third qualifying session, we now see Michael Great, or no, sorry, that's Darcy Cudmore there in the Silver Hornet car, of course. He posts the first lap out of anyone with a 1:30.347, and we'll try to see if any other drivers here will complete a lap. There's a couple cars coming down the long straightaway after turn 16. In the third sector. And we have a couple more times here. Ty Higginbottom actually moves up to the top spot with a 1:29.903. With Jason Butler with a 1:29.960, so about 0.057 something-ish there. Hopefully I didn't just get bad with math right there. I mean, to be fair, we're all not the greatest at math, gotta admit it. Ty Higginbottom remains in first place. There's Jason Butler second. Cody Cudmore with a 1:30.045 in third place. His brother Darcy Cudmore with a 1:30.347, and we Have a caution there in the first sector. Nothing wrong there. Now it's a sector 2 as there's a car slower here. It is Ty Higginbottom, who may have potentially gone for a spin here. So we can see him on board trying to turn the thing around. May have gotten potentially loose in the corner there. That looks to be, yeah, heading through turn 12, I believe that is. There's a couple, another caution, there's another yellow flag there. We can see some cars going side by side. It is between Jason Butler and I believe that's Ty Higginbottom there, the two cars battling side by side. Hopefully this is something that we may see during the race. Although in the last race it was basically just Mason Pope destroying the field completely. Jason Butler will head down into the pit lane right there. We could see Daniel Cudmore right here, the series founder and also the Season 2 Formula 1 Series champion. Cudmore currently leads the standings and has just gone off to a very terrific start, hoping to defend his title, of course. He won the Bahrain Grand Prix after qualifying 3rd place, and then in Portugal he qualified 8th and then finished 5th. And you could say that, to be fair, the rain in Portugal was probably not the best thing ever for Daniel Cudmore, but again, he was still able to get a solid finish there. He still leads the points with 106, 4 over the tie between Colby Luca and Corbin McCauley. Couple cars heading into the pit lane here. We'll probably see some of these cars back out to get some times in the later minutes of their qualifying session. I'd say probably about the final 2 minutes at best, I would think. We have Mason Pope right here, who has now posted a very fast time of 1:29.447. He is looking to continue his momentum after a surging victory at dominance in Portugal. Yeah, his statistics are pretty insane right now. He has 63 points, 1 start, 1 win, 1 pole, 1 podium. His average qualifying position and average finish are both a 1.00, and he got 2 qualifying points and 43 race points. So he missed Bahrain, but then he came right back into the series for Portugal and just bingo, was able to get the job done, leading pretty much almost every single lap, other than the kind of a weird tire situation there at the very end involving a potential upset victory from Daniel Cudmore. A bit of a weird way to say upset, though, especially with Daniel Cudmore, of all drivers. So let's see if there's any other drivers here. We got Jason Butler, who currently has a best time of 1:29.960. Currently on his outlap, looking to improve upon it. We've already mentioned Butler's statistics, I believe, and behind him, trying to see who's behind him here. Can't really tell. And now we have a new fastest time with 3 minutes remaining in the 3rd qualifying session, as Colby Luca has put up a 1:29.387. Colby Luca, of course, tied for 2nd in the drivers' standings. Finished 6th in Bahrain, while in Portugal he finished 2nd after qualifying 5th. So qualifying has been basically an average of 5th, while race-wise he's come close, but still isn't there yet. Maybe the win will come tonight, and maybe he'll take the points lead. He's pretty close behind Daniel Cudmore, of course. We have Ty Higginbottom here on what appears to be an outlap right here. He currently sits now in 3rd place with a 1:29.903. Higginbottom so far has only completed in 1 race. He did not make Portugal, but he did make the Bahrain Grand Prix, where he finished 11th after qualifying 13th. So not the absolute greatest start for him, but again, though, he has shown to be very fast, especially coming in with momentum from winning the NASCAR championship in what was a very close battle. And we can see here Mike Nickens once again has spun around just before heading into the corkscrew. I hope to goodness gracious that I am saying the term right with that one turn. It's what I've seen from other drivers saying stuff and all that. And Colby Luca has, from the looks of it, retired from the session, so maybe he believes his time will be fast enough, or he just wants to be done and over with, as we now have under a minute and a half to go as Luca is in first place. Bit of a caution or yellow flag there in Sector 1. All good there. Butler in fourth place. We got Cody Cudmore fifth, Darcy sixth. The Silver Hornet Racing cars are remaining relatively close, with Dan Cudmore in seventh place. We got Michael Greyhouse eighth. Mike Nickens was able to put up, he was still able to put up a time despite a couple issues throughout these qualifying sessions in terms of spins, but hopefully he will be able to improve with a possibly being a little bit more strategic in terms of being careful and just waiting for things to roll out early on in the Miami Grand Prix. We are now on Darcy Ford, who appears to be on his outlap now, and we have a yellow. There was a yellow flag in between sectors 2 and 3. All good now. Sector 1 now. We can see Cody Cudmore has retired from the session. So we may see here how Darcy Ford will do on what will likely be his only lap in this third and final qualifying session. And I've gotten word it's a chicane, not a corkscrew. Well, we all make mistakes. It's just the way it is. I mean, first time being on the play-by-play, it is what it is. And now the third and final qualifying session will come to an end here. We will see, I believe, Darcy Ford try to put up a lap. We'll have to see where he comes up to begin the Miami Grand Prix. Darcy Ford so far through 2 races has an average qualifying position of 4th, so we'll have to see how he does. He goes to the top. Oh my goodness. He has done it. Darcy Ford, right now, at least so far, we still have a couple other cars that will try to put up laps, but Darcy Ford has gotten to the top with a 129.293. Absolutely incredible from his Atlantic Motorsports number 64 car. We still have a couple other cars to go here. Mason Pope, last week's winner in Portugal. We'll have to wait and see here if he'll improve upon his lap to beat Darcy Ford. As he comes around turn 19. And the session will come to an end there. And Mason Pope will move his way up to first place. He will score the pole for the second weekend in a row with a 128.924. He actually got a 128. As every other driver that was close to him pretty much got a 129. So Mason Pope, 2 weeks in a row, will score the pole in the Formula One Series. Outstanding final lap from Mason Pope in his number 8 Rum Runners Racing BMW Power Unit car from Germany. So that'll have Darcy Ford second place here, and I believe it would only make sense to go through some of the driver profiles here to make some sense here. Mason Pope, 2 weekends in a row, or 2 weeks in a row, sorry. I think I've said weekends a couple times. I mean, you could say weekends because real life, but whatever. Mason Pope, 2 weeks in a row, scores the pole in a Formula One, in a Canadian E-Motorsports Network Formula One Series Grand Prix qualifying. in second place, scoring a good late time, but it wasn't enough to be over Mason Pope. Of course, we got Darcy Ford in his number 64 car for Atlantic Motorsports. And then next up, wrapping up the qualifying podium, you could say, is the number 53 of Colby Luca in the Ayers Racing number 53 Ferrari Power Unit car from Vermont of the United States. So that is your qualifying podium right there. Jason Butler, Ty Higginbottom wrap up the top 5, with Cody Cudmore 6th, Darcy Cudmore 7th, Daniel Cudmore surprisingly back in 8th place. So we'll have to see if he'll improve on his qualifying position there. In 9th place, we have Michael Greathouse and then Mike Nickens in 10th place. So we will go back to the race day. Trying to figure this out here. There we go. We will stay on the race day graphic for now, as we will eventually get to the race very soon, the Miami Grand Prix. But man, 2 Grand Prix in a row, or you could say 2 weeks in a row in terms of the qualifying sessions. Mason Pope on the pole. A lot of drivers complimenting him with his fast lap of a 128, which many drivers were very much chasing. And we will get to the race in a little bit here in a couple seconds. Just got to figure things out right here. And now we can officially be here for the race footage, as we are eventually going to be underway with the Miami Grand Prix. And of course we have the predicted pit stop strategy right there. It just ran through for a little bit right there, so and I have no idea what's going on here. Now we'll have to retire from the session. I'll have to get this out right here. There we go, and we are underway with the Miami Grand Prix, as we can see right there. Mason Pope out in front with Colby Luca and Darcy Ford right there. There's a couple cars more towards the back here. There has been some obvious separation as we get through the field right here, and it looks like no one has had any incidents right here as Mason Pope leads the way with Colby Luca and Darcy Ford right behind him. I was hoping I could have the lights out and away we go intro right there, but unfortunately there was a bit of a weird scenario right there as side by side are Mason Pope and Colby Luca. Pope is able to get in front right there. Down the long straightaway here, there's a bit of a couple scrambles right here in the back as we are on Jason Butler, who is side by side with Ty Higginbottom for 4th place. Corbin McCauley making a couple aggressive moves right here as he will dive to the inside for 4th place. We'll get back to the leaders very quickly right here. Mason Pope will lead the first lap of the Miami Grand Prix right here with a fast lap so far. Colby Lucas 2nd place, Darcy Ford in 3rd. Corbin McCauley moves his way up to 4th place with Ty Higginbottom back there in 5th place as we have a yellow flag. And oh my goodness, we have a incident right here. It involves Darcy Cudmore in his number 75 Silver Hornet racing car. There was some damage on the back end. There was some damage there heading through the turn 18, 17, and 18 by the looks of it, as he will come down pit road. So something definitely happened with him right there, and we can also see that Michael Greathouse is very far behind, so maybe he got involved a little bit or was perhaps slowing down to avoid whatever may have happened right there, as there's cautions through multiple sectors. But now the racing is back underway as Mason Pope continues to lead the way. The virtual safety car was very short, and as a matter of fact, it looks like we actually have a DNF. Or no, maybe we don't. It looked like it seemed like Mike Nickens actually had left the session. I don't know what's I'm not 100% sure what's going on right there. And, oh, we have trouble here with some car right there. And it looks like it may be Colby Luca, who may have spun around right there, heading down the long straightaway after turn 16. We'll have to see right here when Mike Nickens come by. Yes, that is Colby Luca. And it appears Luca is either going to be now in the pit lane or he may have potentially DNF'd. Massive trouble for the driver who was up there fighting with Mason Pope, I believe, there in 1st place. And yeah, he just barely tapped the wall and just went around. And not 100% sure where he's going to be right now, as Mason Pope continues to lead the way with Darcy Ford about 1.1 seconds behind right there. Corbin McCauley 3rd place, 5.6. There's Ty Higginbottom in 4th place. Not far behind Jason Butler, Cody Cudmore, Dan Cudmore, and Colby Luca has left the session. So that means Colby Luca is out of the Miami Grand Prix after an incident that did happen there, coming off a turn 16 just after the turns 14 and 15 chicane right there. An absolute disaster for the driver in 2nd place in the standings. So rather unfortunate for Colby Luca and his number 53 Ayers Racing car. Very, very much of a tragedy early on in this Miami Grand Prix as Mason Pope continues to lead the way with Darcy Ford in 2nd place. Again, Corbin McCauley about 5.5 seconds behind right there. Ford trying to keep a bit of a distance behind Pope, who comes around turn 19 and will take the 4th lap out of 29 here in this Miami Grand Prix. And now Macaulay has the fastest lap with a 133.284. The laps will likely get maybe a little bit faster here as the cars separate more and more. Although, to be fair, the tire compounds are definitely going to... the tire compounds are going to dry off and get warmer and warmer. So, Mason Pope continues to lead the way. It looks like he's on the hard tire compound so he can last longer. We'll have to see where Darcy Ford is. It looks like he's on the same compounds there as well. I remember earlier there was reports of a rain threat for this race, but no, we have not gotten that whatsoever. It's a pretty sunny day in Miami. I mean, go figure, it's Florida. It's either very sunny or very rainy. Back on Macaulay right there in 3rd place, looking to score what would be back-to-back podiums, would be back-to-back 3rd place finishes, but again, we still have to roll through the race here. We got in 4th place, Jason Butler, looking to improve upon his 9th place finish in Portugal. He did finish 5th in Bahrain, so he'll look to possibly fight for a podium this time around. And we can see some cars close behind here, including Ty Higginbottom, Daniel Cudmore, and Cody Cudmore. And remembering earlier, whatever incident happened with Darcy Cudmore, he still remains in this race. His number 75 Silver Hornet Racing car did get damaged, but he was able to get some repairs going, and now he remains about 10 seconds behind Michael Greathouse in 10th place, Michael in 9th. We can see here he's about 10 seconds behind. That'd be Ivan Reynolds, who we have not really mentioned yet so far tonight. Ivan Reynolds through 2 races. Unfortunately, does have 1 DNF, which came in the Bahrain Grand Prix. He was able to come back at Portugal and finish 8th after qualifying 9th, so not too bad from the Ayers Racing car. Unfortunately, though, his teammate Colby Luca not so much in the same luck as the better driver, as statistically the better driver at the team. So, unless Reynolds can make up a couple positions here throughout this race, then we'll just have to wait and see on in the team standings how Ayers Racing will do. If Corbin Macaulay can get another podium or just another decent finish here, let's say maybe a top 5 for example, then Red Dirt Racing will definitely make their way up. But then again, though, Ivan Reynolds could do something to help the now absence of Colby Luca. Although Silver Hornet Racing does look decent there with Cody Cudmore in 7th place, 2.5 seconds behind brother Daniel Cudmore, who comes around turn 19 to get to his perspective of the 6th lap at a 29. See there, Jason Butler moving back up the order, Macaulay. Darcy Ford, yeah, you can see a bit of a distance right there. It's remained about 1.5 seconds for a couple laps here, as Darcy Ford is trying to keep Mason Pope in sight, and now it's about 1.4 seconds of a distance. We'll have to question here, maybe Darcy Ford has found some more speed, or maybe the difference in how these 2 drivers have used their hard tire compounds, maybe that'll play a difference. Maybe Pope's run too hard, who knows? It's still remaining relatively the same distance as the 2 cars will go through the turns 14 and 15 chicane, which can seriously damage the under part of your car if you're not careful, and it's very tight too if you're battling with another car, especially if it's a lead battle coming into the final couple laps of this Grand Prix. Then that is most certainly not going to be something that you're going to want to have to deal with, but then again, there may have to be some sacrifice that goes on right there. And let's get on board here with Mason Pope as he will come around for lap 7 of 29. He looks to be right now on a similar dominant fashion in comparison to the Portuguese Grand Prix. in which he pretty much led almost every single lap of that race. Although there was, of course, the late pit weird fiasco that did go on, but I mean, now this time around, maybe things will change a little bit here. Ford's still trying to keep his distance, and here we have Mason Pope coming towards the lap car here of Mike Nickens as there's trouble in the first sector. Possibly, yes, Cody Cudmore appears to have spun around in what looks to be heading into turn 4 here, and now turn 5. Something went on. There's a virtual safety car, actually. We may have to see if maybe something went on with other cars, but no, by the looks of it, maybe it looks like Darcy Cudmore's speed may have triggered the virtual safety car. It's not like an actual regular safety car where the car's out and the cars have to slow down behind it, you know. And we just saw there, Corin McCauley has gotten a drive-through penalty for what looks to be speeding under the virtual safety car. And yes, we saw, I believe it was also Bahrain, even though we were unable to broadcast. Yeah, Jordy and I were unable to broadcast that race because of some technical game shenanigans that were going on. We saw in Portugal, penalties were galore. Maybe only 2 or 3 drivers didn't really get penalties at all, and it looks like McCauley just got another penalty for speeding in the pit lane. It looks like he wasn't able to slow down in time for the pit entry, so that's definitely going to put him way further down the grid as he's now in 6th place. Very unfortunate for the driver who finished 3rd place after qualifying 2nd in Portugal. So that is very unfortunate and potential tragedy here for the other McCauley, the racer McCauley. We'll just have to wait and see here if he'll eventually be able to rebound, as we will get later on this Miami Grand Prix. He's so far the only one with a penalty, though, as we are now 8 laps into the 29-lap Grand Prix. There's a couple cars coming down pit lane. It's Cody Cudmore, and we also have Michael Greathouse. Now Cudmore is now coming out of the pit lane here. We've also got Greathouse coming down. We can now see Greathouse looks to be on the medium tire compounds. We'll have to wait and see here on Cody Cudmore. It looks like he's on the medium tires. It's yellow, orange, whatever color it is. Being partially colorblind is not absolutely the greatest thing, especially from far distances. There's Mike Nickens there in 11th place. It looks like he's about to get passed by someone. There's, yeah, Mike Nickens kind of just slowing down right there, getting kind of invisible, trying to let other cars get by. Mason Pope continues to lead with Darcy Ford now 2.78-ish seconds behind on Mason, or behind Mason Pope. Jason Butler in 3rd place, 9.4 seconds behind, and in 3rd place there, Ty Higginbottom 3 seconds behind him. There's Daniel Cudmore, who is actually just about a second behind Ty Higginbottom. So Cudmore looking to advance positions here and score a couple more, about another point or 2 here on Ty Higginbottom. And Higginbottom could seriously use the points right now, as in the standings. He currently sits only 15th with 28 points, as he only has shown up for 1 race. It will now be 2 after tonight. Meanwhile, his teammate Darcy Ford, again in 2nd place right now, is 6th in the standings with 86 points. So Higginbottom, the Season 3 NASCAR Series champion, will look to improve upon that. McCauley actually is now back in the potential for some battles right here, as he currently sits behind Daniel Cudmore and Ty Higginbottom. Although McCauley does have a time penalty. No, I believe it's a 5-second penalty that we saw for speeding in the pit lane. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Yeah, now I'm looking at the YouTube stream here, and we can see, Colby Luca says he's going to be screwed in points. Yeah, I mean, All I can say to you, Luca, right now is that there's still many races to go. There's still, 8 races to go. My math brain is currently buffering. I believe that'll be 8 there's still 8 Grand Prix still remaining, whatever number it is, so you still have plenty of time to rebound. Hopefully the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal will help you out next week. And with Jordy there, that'll definitely leave me some less of a hassle in comparison to what I'm going through tonight. It's going pretty well, though. There is a yellow flag in the first sector. Now it's all good. And we see a couple cars here battling around. There's some near contact as Daniel Cudmore try to get around Ty Higginbottom. And he will successfully do that as Corbin McCauley will get the onboard here, trying to battle against Higginbottom here as they will exit off of turn 16 here down the long DRS zone straightaway here. DRS has not been turned on yet by the looks of it. And now Mason Pope gets the fastest lap after McCauley had originally gotten the fastest lap about a lap or 2 earlier. Oh, and around! We got a car around. That's Ty Higginbottom around in exiting turn 17 here. He will get back around. He remains now in 6th place. He's dropping to about maybe 10. He'll be about 10 seconds behind Corbin McCauley in 5th place. So, if the race results, if this was the final lap right here, then we would most certainly see McCauley end up with the 5th place finish here. It's only a 5-second penalty, which would only make Higginbottom 5 seconds behind. Some great math and some facts right there. And now we can see Ivan Reynolds coming into the pit lane. We'll have to see here what he's going to do. Oh, he's actually missing a front wing, so maybe that earlier yellow was him possibly spun around or into the wall, which is not good at all. We can see he's putting on the medium tire compounds. Currently 9th place, or now 10th, I should say. There's Mike Nickens back there, like about a 1.5 seconds behind Ivan Reynolds. I can only imagine he's probably a couple laps down. There's Mason Pope right there, about 5 seconds ahead of Darcy Ford as he comes across the line for lap 12 at a 29. We will be hitting halfway here very soon. Darcy Ford coming back around about 5 seconds behind, yes. There's Jason Butler in 3rd. Just under 10 seconds now. It is 10 seconds behind Darcy Ford. Again, McCauley in 4th place here. Dan Cudmore fighting close behind, and there's trouble. It is Darcy Cudmore who has retired from the session. There's a safety car now. Yes, he is around back there. Yeah, we'll see off of Michael Greathouse here. Yes, the left front tire has completely come off. He spun around, coming off of turn 16. He went into the wall. Definitely got the car loose here. We'll have to see here. Now his car is officially gone. But we have a safety car near the halfway point of this Miami Grand Prix. And that is definitely going to change things up here. But wow. Not a great race here for Darcy Cudmore, his number 75 Silver Hornet Racing Mercedes Power Unit car from Ontario. Originally from B, I believe. Can't confirm that. But that is a 2nd car that has DNF'd. We can forget about that last name at the bottom there because of the whole situation I'm having here in terms of broadcasting. So rather unfortunate for one of the Cudmores, as one of the 3 Cudmores is now out of this Miami Grand Prix. Very, very tragic, as in the standings, Darcy Cudmore 10th place. He finished only 12th in Portugal, so it rather hasn't been a great start to the season for Darcy Cudmore. So now that's going to leave us with 10 cars remaining in this race, and we have a bunch of cars that are coming through the pits here as Darcy Ford comes out right in front of Corbin McCauley here. We'll have to wait and see on what tire compound Darcy Ford has. It is the medium tire compound, as they will catch up to Mason Pope behind the safety car, going through the very wide turn 7 now into turn 8. Will eventually be turn 9 here. And of course turn 10 very soon. We can see Jason Butler catching up. Dan Cudmore still has to make his way up to the other cars right here. Ty Higginbottom coming right here in 6th place. Then there's Michael Greathouse, who looks to have just gone off the pit lane. No, he is actually now heading to the pit lane right now in the medium tire compound. He may be looking to go on some cleaner tires here. He's going on the hard tire compound. A very interesting decision by Michael Greathouse right here. The hard tire compound is an interesting one, as it's the hardest lasting tire compound out of the 3 main tires that Formula One uses at a small, medium, and large, I believe it is, or long, whatever it is called. And yeah, that tire is it's the longest lasting tire of them all, but at the same time though, it's the slowest tire compound. The thing is though, the longer it lasts, it actually will eventually be able to help you speed back up to cars who have worn off a lot faster on the medium tire compounds. Soft, medium, hard, that's what I'm meant to say there. Yeah, soft, medium, hard tire compounds. As there's one car coming to the pit lane right here. It is Corbin McCauley in his number 71 Red Dirt Racing car. Apologies for all the mistakes, just to clarify, that I may have made with terms or whatever so far tonight. Again, first time doing the play-by-play on my own. So having all the information, everything through the mind, going through such a hassle like this can be difficult, but at the same time, I am having a great time if you are curious. So McCauley goes on the medium tire compound here, as we will basically be halfway through the Miami Grand Prix, lap 13 out of 29 now, as we can see all the cars, or at least it looks to be about 5 of them coming through here, including the lap car of Mike Nickens, who may or may not be asked to pass everyone coming back to the line here. There's looks to be maybe some cars passing him. Get a good idea here. Michael Greathouse is going to have to catch up very fast here very soon. Yes, of course, there's Pope, Ford, Jason Butler, Dan Cudmore, Ty Higginbottom, Corbin McCauley. Now there's Cody Cudmore. There's Ivan Reynolds, Greathouse, and Nickens is just, you know, kind of waiting right there. Needs to sell through as the cars will come around turn 12 here. Turn 13 eventually up into the turns 14 and 15. Chicane. Again, Mason Pope just continues to show dominant pace, just like he did in Portugal. Absolutely incredibly fast car through what will be eventually 2 races here soon. Again, though, there is a lot of pressure that will go on behind him. And the safety car will be coming in this lap, so we will be going back to racing here very, very soon. We have a different camera here. Cars kind of just swiping back and forth. Here, just warming up the tires. 10 cars remain in this race, although you could say 9 on the quote-unquote lead lap. But coming around through turn 18, turn 19, it's green flag racing once again. We are back underway with the Miami Grand Prix, lap 15 out of 29, basically halfway at this point. Mason Pope with a terrific start here. We'll get more towards the back here. Darcy Ford, Jason Butler getting through just fine. We got Dan Cudmore, Higginbottom, McCauley getting through. Looks like everyone's getting through just fine. A side-by-side battle here between Greathouse and Ivan Reynolds, but Greathouse will take advantage of just that. And now we're back on the leaders. So far, so good, as Mason Pope leads the way here in first place, like usual. And towards the back here, we're getting a couple battles. Here's Dan Cudmore is up against Ty Higginbottom and also Corbin McCauley. These three drivers have been fighting very hard throughout most of this race. And now there's a massive dive bomb here, as Corbin McCauley goes to fourth place. It looks like his time penalty is now actually done. I don't know how that, I'm not 100% sure on how that works, but McCauley's down to fourth place. You can only imagine with the fact that that time penalty symbol is not there anymore. Then by the looks of it, Corbin McCauley is back on track. He's in fourth place now, looking to rebound up to a potential podium. Maybe third place for the second week in a row. As we see here, it's just it's a closer margin than we've usually seen throughout the race so far, as Mason Pope continues to lead the way. Now we have an open pit window for the soft tire strategy. It's a one-stop strategy between lap 16 and 24. If you want to come in for that soft tire compound, then this is your chance to get an advantage on the field. Although the soft tire compound, as a matter of fact, it is the fastest tire, but at the same time, though, it wears off the fastest. So it's only really meant for qualifying. But again, if you want to make a late pit stop, if you're leading by a large margin late in the race and you want to get that small tire compound on and perhaps score the fastest lap of the race and get that one extra point, which, yes, if you get the fastest lap of the race, that is the case, then why not give it a shot as long as you don't mess up? It's quite the risk, but it's the way it is with these drivers. We currently remain in it kind of differs between about 0.5 and a second in difference between Mason Pope and Darcy Ford, while Jason Butler just kind of remains back here in third place, waiting for things to kind of settle. McCauley fourth place. See a bit of an onboard switcheroos with the cameras on Dan Cudmore. And now Ty Higginbottom back there as well. By the looks of it, we really don't have that many battles going on right now. There's Mike Nickens all the way in the back right there. So far, all the cars just remain kind of separate for the most part. As Mason Pope continues to lead the way, he will score the fastest time now of the race. Fastest lap, 1:31.583. That is definitely a very large difference between his qualifying pole lap of a 1:28.9, which everyone was chasing, and everyone complimented him on how fast of a lap that was, because most drivers were getting in an average of about 1:29s to 1:30s. So, yeah, Mason Pope just remains pretty much like Verstappen. And it looks like there may have been some contact for Mason Pope. He may have exited off that corner there a little bit too far, a little bit too wide. Along the right side there, right front, he may have gotten in the wall. And he's in the wall again. More on the inside there this time. Here comes Darcy Ford trying to fight there. He almost gets in the back of Pope. But Pope will remain in front. Great last name, by the way. Through the chicane here. Looks like Pope doesn't really have too much damage or whatever going on right now, but those wall contact situations are definitely not good for his pace, as this will give a perfect opportunity for Darcy Ford to possibly combat on that, as he has remained a little bit more consistent with these laps, as it may have looked like he was almost going to try a bit of a diving move right there, but he'll remain in second place, still very close behind Pope. It's about a 0.4 second difference, as we will come to lap 18 out of 29, nearing 10 laps to go. And the margins seem a lot closer now, as we can see the differences here on the intervals, about a second behind each driver between first and fourth. We may see the possibility here of even Corbin McCauley getting into the fight for the win here. And I hope to goodness that time penalty isn't still going, because that would be a serious commentary mess up right there. But I'm sure he is all good right now. He is fighting for every inch he can get. There's also Jason Butler trying to catch up in every way he can, but he remains about 1.7 seconds behind there, now 1.8. Dan Cudmore, Ty Higginbottom with some far distances, about +2 seconds behind each other there. Cody Cudmore, Ivan Reynolds, Greathouse, and then of course Mike Nickens. Just kind of enjoying his race. You can see a car on the other side of the track there going through. Still remains a close distance here. We will likely stay on this unless there's an incident towards the back. Through the first 2 races, we didn't really see a whole lot of close battling. It was rather just more domination, and we are seeing domination from Mason Pope. I swear that term has been very repeated so much. But yes, Mason Pope continues to lead the way with his dominant pace. The thing is, though, the racing is seemingly getting a lot closer as Darcy Ford and Corbin McCauley still remain far behind. Or, I mean, close behind. Not too far behind, I should say. As we may potentially, in the third round of 11 in this 2022 Formula 1 Series season, it may take until now to finally get potentially a good battle, although the broadcast jinx may have just happened there. Hopefully not. We still have plenty of time for things to shake up. As McCauley's getting very close on Ford. It's about a 0.5-ish second difference behind. And we'll get the onboard camera here as he is doing his best to catch up. He is very close. He is coming on the rear bumper. He will look to the outside. We'll get on the regular camera here, and McCauley will take second place over Darcy Ford. McCauley is most certainly not a huge fan of the Miami track at all. However, though, again, that opinion might change if he happens to catch up to Mason Pope and possibly contend for the win here, as incredible redemption over what were some unfortunate penalties earlier in the race, as he did have to take in a drive-through penalty, and he also sped heading into the pit lane, which gave him a 5-second time penalty. So this would be an awesome rebound for him here. Again, now McCauley does look to be slowly catching up, as the interval remains at about, like, it goes from 1.5 to 1.2. It just kind of differs. But again, we still have about, like, it's pretty much 10 laps to go now. So this is going to give a lot of time for McCauley to try and get a shot here, but it looks like he may have lost some time there. He may have gone wide, potentially. This may give an opportunity for Darcy Ford to catch back up for second place. Again, McCauley looking for 2 podiums in a row to start off the season. He, in Bahrain, unfortunately did not get on the podium. He still scored a decent finish. He does have an average qualifying position of 1.50. He did score the pole in Bahrain, and an average race finish of 5.50. So again, there's plenty of time for things to shake up. Hopefully Mason Pope doesn't make a mistake. Unlike Portugal, where he did not make a mistake whatsoever, I can tell you that. And for the rest of the, I suppose, 10-car field, or 9 if you want to count the lead lap cars here, then whatever way you call it. Yeah, not really any battling now happening so far, as Mason Pope will come to lap 21 and 29. Which is now 9 laps remaining in this Miami Grand Prix. Just advancing through the field here, and it looks like Michael Greathouse actually has lost the front wing. We have a yellow flag in the first sector. Wonder what that may be for. Maybe it does have to do with Greathouse, as he has lost a front wing after what may have been potential contact with the wall somewhere. But nothing has happened thus far. Actually, no, it looks like Corbin McCauley may have had an issue, as he's now back to 4th place. He may have potentially spun around. I'm surprised we didn't catch that. I'm surprised I didn't catch that. Looked like it was straight as we were scrolling through the cars and everything, but now he's back to 4th place. very close behind Jason Butler here, looking to get back on the podium. But now Mason Pope has a large difference over Darcy Ford by about 4.5 seconds, with Jason Butler 2 seconds behind Ford. McCauley now about 0.34-ish behind Butler. And we got Cudmore, Hingham, just kind of a bunch of large differences with the other cars, but something must have happened there with McCauley. That's probably the reason why we had the yellow flag in the first sector. I was wondering if Greathouse had a potential situation there, but yeah, he still remains without a front wing. He may come down to the pit lane. I mean, to be fair, he has quite a large distance behind the other cars, including Ivan Reynolds up there in 8th place. So the number 26 Rum Runners Racing BMW power unit car from South Carolina, he actually does not come to the pit lane. Perhaps he isn't really minding the fact that there is no such thing as a front wing in his mind. Again, it's just good old Mason Pope looking to score back-to-back victories, 2 victories in 2 races, pretty much looking like Max Verstappen out here, or Lewis Hamilton if you're not if he's not a Red Bull fan. Not 100% sure what his Formula 1 fandom is truly like, if there is any. Again, Ford a very large distance, 4.5 behind Pope. And there looks to be some trouble there. McCauley is able to get past Jason Butler, as Butler may have taken the chicane there a little bit too quickly and went wide, had to slow down. And now Butler is about 0.3 to 4 behind McCauley, as McCauley will now get back on the podium. And we're seeing that looks to be Daniel Cudmore advancing over the lap car of Mike Nickens. Ahead here. McCauley now back onto the podium, looking for 2 straight third-place finishes after scoring that third-place finish and podium at the Portuguese Grand Prix. It's just good old Mason Pope once again. There really, at this point, there really isn't a whole lot to fully express here on lap 23 to 29, as the only real close proximity here is between McCauley and Jason Butler. At this point, we'd have to get a safety car for anything major to happen here. As Butler kind of just a bit of a few interval differences that are going on here. It looks like Butler is slowly falling back, though. He's now he went from about a second behind to 1.5 seconds now, as McCauley tries to advance his way towards Darcy Ford, about 3 seconds behind. As McCauley is now getting through the corner there. Ford coming down the long straightaway here. McCauley will also now get towards these straightaways. Now we're on lap 24 to 29. So that would be 7 laps remaining. Advancing through the other cars here once again. Not a whole lot to say other than Ivan Reynolds is closing in slowly on Cody Cudmore. And right now in the standings, Cody Cudmore sits in 8th place in the standings with 79 points. Through 2 races, he doesn't have any wins, poles, or podiums. At least he doesn't have any DNFs. Has an average qualifying position of 12, average finish of 8.5, 18 qualifying points, and 50 race points. In Portugal, he finished 11th, just fell short of the top 10, behind Michael Greathouse. Yeah, Reynolds is beginning to catch up on Cody Cudmore here for 7th place. That would not be too shabby for Reynolds to get a couple extra point or 2 behind Cudmore. Maybe their close proximity will cause a battle so feisty that we may even potentially get a safety car. Perhaps. Maybe I'm intentionally trying to get a jinx there, but no, I most certainly wouldn't want to destroy Mason Pope's dreams of going back to back with such destroying victories against the rest of the field. And here comes Reynolds trying to get momentum behind Cody Cudmore. Reynolds tries to dive it in down low, and it's not going to work. He had to slow down just a little bit there not to get into the back of Cudmore. Now, it looks as though Cody Cudmore down into the pit lane, and I just noticed there raindrops. Are we about to get a rain finish here? If I get a... We can see here intermediate tire compound for Cody Cudmore, and it looks like we may get a wet finish here. So that rain threat may actually, from the discussions through Messenger and such, we're going to get a potentially wet finish here. Some raindrops are falling, so that rain threat was more for the finish, so we may end up getting a very chaotic end to this first ever Miami Grand Prix for the Canadian E-Motorsports Network Formula 1 Series. We'll have to wait and see here if other cars are going to try and enter into the pit lane. Pope does not, and the rain is getting a little bit more feisty here. None of the top three are going to pit. Jason Butler will not pit either. Daniel Cudmore will have to see what he does here. He's not going to pit either. Ty Higginbottom coming through turn 17. Through turn 18, he is not going to pit either. The only car on the intermediates is Cody Cudmore, so this begs the question, has Cody Cudmore possibly made a decision here that may benefit him? Potentially, although to be fair, Mason Pope is already completely on the other side of the racetrack. Cody Cudmore is about 8.5 seconds behind. That would be Michael Greathouse, as Ivan Reynolds is about 25 seconds ahead of Greathouse. And now we can see here, Reynolds is coming to the pit lane. It looks like he's going to put on the intermediate tire compound, which is the regular tire compounding conditions where there may be some wet conditions, but it's not enough for the wet tire compounds, which would be in the case of if it was literally downpouring and visibility was somehow terrific. So we'll have to wait and see here if other cars may take the chance to go for the intermediate tire compound of the late strategy, although I wouldn't think any of the top cars would want to go for something like this. They'll just have to make sure that they don't possibly lose the car in any turn and possibly have their race destroyed outright. Again, so far it doesn't look like any other cars will try to go for the intermediate tire compounds. Let's see, Higginbottom coming through here, his number 97 Atlantic Motorsports car. Still no front wing on, that would be Michael Greathouse's Rum Runner's car, number 36. Or make that 26. My apologies. Cudmore going through the chicane. There's Reynolds trying to catch up. Bit of an intermediate tire compound battle here between Cudmore and Reynolds. There's Nickens. You can obviously see the raindrops coming down, but so far it hasn't affected anyone like Mason Pope or Ford or McCauley or Butler, any of the top cars so far. Although it does look obvious that the track surface is getting just a little bit wet. Mason Pope currently sits 5 seconds ahead, so any spin from him may be catastrophic, but at the same time, though, as long as he doesn't fully spin, maybe loses the car a little bit, then maybe things will turn out just okay, perhaps. But Pope will come down the long straightaway here. Into turn 17. He will come around onto the front straightaway for the call for 2 laps remaining in the Miami Grand Prix. Ford coming around looking for his first podium of the season after finishing 7th in the Portuguese Grand Prix, and DRS has been enabled So this may give an opportunity for some drivers in the field to get a shot at an advantage against each other. Probably more so for Cody Cudmore and Ivan Reynolds towards the back of the field. And yeah, there was no Sam McCauley there for some reason. The cameras weren't working fantastically with him. And it just remains a 5-second lead for Mason Pope. Ford continues to remain stable in second, McCauley third. There's Butler, Dan Cudmore. Again, really not a whole lot to say, although there are some close cars in proximity here along this long straightaway as Mason Pope goes through the turns 14 and 15 chicane into turn 16, down the long straightaway, one of the DRS zones. Perhaps take a bit of an advantage on Darcy Ford in any way imaginable. And there is massive trouble here for Corbin McCauley, as it looks like he may have cut through the chicane through turns 14 and 15, and that'll give him a 3-second time penalty that will potentially affect his result for this race. As long as he stays 3 seconds ahead of Jason Butler in 4th place, then he will be good for back-to-back podiums, another 3rd place finish, as the white flag has been waved for the final lap of the Miami Grand Prix, and Mason Pope just looks like he's just set sail on back-to-back victories, pretty much trying to look like Max Verstappen with 2 wins in his first 2 races. Again, his statistics have been unbelievable ever since he debuted in Portugal. As we can see, the rain kind of dropping a little bit more intensely as there's trouble in the 3rd sector somewhere, as it looks like maybe something happened with Nickens or Reynolds, or I can't really tell what really went on there. It was a very quick yellow flag. And the rain is dropping a lot more drastically on this final lap, so everyone will try to take it a little bit easy, as the distances between every car is pretty much relatively far, although Darcy Ford has caught up with just the tiniest of bits, but it probably won't be enough to really change anything, and McCauley's time penalty looks like it won't affect him any bit, as Jason Butler remains 5 seconds behind. We'll very quickly go through the other cars. It looks like no one's going to really be affected by the rain here, as it is dropping a little bit more drastically, but coming around. Turn 17, into turn 18, then into turn 19. Off the final turn, Mason Pope will come around and take the checkered flag for his 2nd win of the 2022 Canadian E-Motorsports Network Formula 1 season, with another dominating victory in Miami. And this time around, I believe he may have led every single lap, or maybe there were a couple where he didn't. And about that, kind of wondering what may be going on here. It says Mason Pope actually falls to 5th place, and Darcy Ford is actually in 1st. So maybe what I just said there about Pope, bit of a confusion right here. We'll have to see through the communications on what's going on. Seeing a lot of question marks. Maybe it should fix itself. And the podium celebration. Yeah, there's a bit of a confusion going on, because according to the final results here, maybe Darcy Ford who actually may have won the race. And maybe something may have happened with Mason Pope, where he may have... Maybe there's a violation here, or is it going to get fixed? It says Darcy Ford is actually in 1st place. So, bit of a strange scenario here. Mason Pope has actually fallen to like 9th. So have we potentially gotten a bit of a glitch here, or something that may have just completely destroyed Mason Pope's domination? Or Okay, no, we're going through the podium celebration, and it's showing Darcy Ford. And I can clearly see through the chat and such here. Yeah, Mason Pope was clearly the winner. And yeah, communications are kind of getting a little bit turbulent here. Yeah, it's a glitch. Okay, yeah, we're getting the confirmation that it is a glitch. Again, we can't fully confirm on Darcy Ford because Mason Pope clearly came across the line first, but then it dropped him a bunch of positions. So, bit of a strange ending to this race. Not really something that we would have expected to possibly get, but then again, though, it's F1 2022, so you can't really be surprised there, but... So looking at the results very quickly, for now, we will say Mason Pope scored the victory. Hopefully it was just a glitch. Meanwhile, Darcy Ford, hopefully in second place rather than first. Corbin McCauley will get back-to-back podiums, third place, right there. And Jason Butler will fall just short of a podium in fourth place. Dan Cudmore will wrap up the top 5. So don't believe in what you saw there with Darcy Ford in first place just yet, because it may have likely... It sounds like it was just a simple game glitch, which would be rather unfortunate. So we'll have to wait and see here what the staff with the race committee and the Canadian Motorsports Network staff will have to say and figure out about all this. But for now, we will say that Mason Pope, I suppose unofficially, has back-to-back victories, winning Portugal and now in Miami. So you'll probably see on the social media, with the social media accounts and such, what the official results will be tomorrow morning, sometime tomorrow. So with that, we'll just hopefully assume here that Mason Pope is the winner. And moving on from there, we will promote next week's race, which, as a matter of fact, we are back home in Canada for race 4 of 11 for the 2022 Formula 1 Series season with the Canadian Grand Prix at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Quebec. On November 1st, next week, on Tuesday evening, Jordy Caraher will likely be back to be the main play-by-play guy, while I will return to being more of the good old color commentator and such, feeding my details, analyses, and such. So we hope you enjoyed tonight's running of Canadian E-Motorsports Network Racing with the 2022 Formula 1 series season. And yeah, that'll wrap it up for tonight for race 3. So on behalf of the Canadian E-Motorsports Network, the committee, founder Dan Cudmore, first-time play-by-play commentator myself, Regan McCauley, and drivers of the series, of course. Thank you for watching tonight's Miami Grand Prix, and we will see you next week for the Canadian Grand Prix, of course on YouTube, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for round 4. Take care, take it easy, have a good one.